I lost my memory. I remember everyone. But I've forgotten him alone. I looked at my handsome but ill-tempered husband who didn't like me. And shrugged my shoulders. Find some time and let's get a divorce. When Damon picked me up from the hospital, I almost called the police. It was only when he took out our marriage certificate that he barely dispelled my doubts. I looked at the newlyweds on the marriage certificate who didn't seem to be close to each other. And asked him, "Are you really my husband? You don't seem to love me." Damon's face, full of boredom, froze. I probably wouldn't marry someone who doesn't love me either. There must be something wrong somewhere. Damon took me back to our home. As soon as we opened the door, it was pitch black. Damon even bumped his foot at the entrance. He complained to me, "Why does it have to be raised here?" I had no memory of this home at all. I didn't know how to answer him. It was really too dark at the entrance. Damon groped the wall for a long time but couldn't find the light switch. So Damon asked me again, "Where's the light switch?" I asked him back, "Isn't this your home?" Damon fell silent. After a long while, he finally found the switch behind the vase. The warm yellow light illuminated the entrance. And it seemed to dispel the monsters lurking in the darkness of the living room. I seemed to remember something. I remembered that no matter how late it was, there was always a light on at the entrance waiting for Damon to come home. Just like I always kept my heart open for Damon. I came back to my senses and saw that Damon was holding a piece of memo paper in his hand, which should have been torn off from the switch. I took a look. It was in my handwriting, saying, "Classmate Z. Congratulations on finally finding the switch." I couldn't help but laugh. Was I so naive before? Damon had been observing me. Hearing this, he threw the memo paper aside and casually replied to me, "Not only were you very naive, but you were also jealous." I raised my eyebrows and asked him, "You have someone else outside, don't you?" He was at a loss for words. And then he questioned me angrily. "Erica, are you faking your amnesia? Stop being unreasonable. I don't have that much time to play with you." They all suspected that I was faking my amnesia. After all, I hadn't been in a car accident. Nor had I suffered a major blow. I just simply slept and then woke up not recognizing Damon. I stared straight at Damon. I didn't remember this person in front of me. And I even forgot all my feelings for him. The heart in my chest told me that I used to love him very much. I suddenly smiled and said, "You're feeling guilty." Damon ignored me and walked towards the living room. The light switch in the living room was on the left. Damon could turn it on with a casual pat. He sat on the warm white sofa and, like a child throwing a tantrum, refused to look at me. I looked at the switch curiously. Damon was tall. And the position he patted was something I could only reach by stretching out my arm. I really treated myself too harshly. Damon frowned. "Are you doing this on purpose? I told you I don't have that much time to play with you." I sat on the small chair opposite him and looked around. "If you don't have time, then let's not play." I took out the marriage certificate Damon had given me before. "Find some time and let's get a divorce." Damon didn't even raise his eyes and replied very quickly, as if afraid that I would go back on my word, "Sure. You're the one who said it." I nodded. After staying in the hospital for such a long time, I was a bit tired. So I asked Damon, "Which one is my bedroom?" Damon looked at me suspiciously, as if sizing me up to see if I was lying and if I really had amnesia. He led me to the door of the bedroom and then leaned against the door frame, staring at me intently. I rummaged through several cabinets and finally found my pajamas. At the same time, I also saw Damon's. The two sets were couple styles. But Damon's set was very new and obviously hadn't been worn. But I still folded them neatly and placed them side by side. I bypassed that set and took out a nightgown. "I'm going to change my clothes. Do you still want to stay here and watch?" Damon raised his eyebrows and then reminded me, "Don't forget to go for the divorce tomorrow morning." I waved my phone at him. "Don't worry. I've already made an appointment." He seemed a bit surprised. "When did you make the appointment?" I shrugged. "The first time I saw you. I already had the intention of getting a divorce." Damon seemed very angry. He pursed his lips, frowned tightly, and stared at me for a long time. In the end, he didn't say anything and turned around and left. I closed the door and lay on the soft bed. The light from the living room shone through the gap by the door. I got up to turn off the light. When I opened the door, I found that Damon was cracking away at the computer in the living room. The light in the living room was cold white. And it fell on Damon, seemingly increasing the distance between him and me. It was like we were in different worlds. Suddenly he turned his head to look at me and asked indifferently, "Why aren't you sleeping yet? Do you regret it?" I calmly walked to the kitchen and poured a cup of warm water. When I passed by the refrigerator, I also took a bottle of coffee for him. He took the coffee suspiciously, took a sip, and immediately frowned. "Erica, what are you doing?" Well, judging by his reaction, he should not like coffee. I took a sip of warm water and said to him, "To help you sober up." Damon frowned and glared at me. "I'm sober enough already." I smiled. "That's good. I thought you were living in a dream to be able to say such a thing." Damon pursed his lips and didn't say anything again. I realized that he seemed to be deliberately avoiding arguing with me. Was he afraid that I would regret it? I don't remember what Damon was like in the past. Maybe he was high-spirited. Or maybe he was calm and reserved. But he shouldn't be like this. He was making me feel annoyed. My annoyance towards Damon continued until the next morning when he drove me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. I got up too early and had low blood sugar. So I leaned against the car seat to catch up on sleep. I don't know where Damon got the mood. But he insisted on pulling me and reminiscing about the past with me. He talked about how I chased after him all the way. How we got the marriage certificate. And then how we decorated the house. Chattering on and on. My head was aching from listening. And I couldn't help interrupting him. "You're so good at talking. Why don't you talk about how you met your mistress?" Damon shut up. But at the same time, he also tacitly admitted that he had fallen out of love with me and fallen in love with someone else. I also roughly heard the story of me and him from Damon's mouth. In the story, I adored him and even lowered myself, like a humble commoner looking up at a god of faith. Now, I'm out of the previous filter. I just realized that Damon is so annoying. Finally, heading to Feldley. We managed to enter the Civil Affairs Bureau. The person who received us was a young girl. She first took a look at Damon. And then smiled at me. You too. There's a 30-day cooling-off period for divorce here." She showed me a kind and gentle smile. But her eyes conveyed another signal to me. "Don't you regret it?" I looked up at Damon. He was tall with long legs. Good-looking. Dressed in a suit and leather shoes. And even his hair was carefully groomed. He clearly looked like a wealthy and educated person. The little girl must have misjudged him. An educated person doesn't necessarily do things in an educated way. Damon was more anxious than me. He frowned and asked back, "Does it have to go through the cooling-off period?" The little girl looked at the computer and smiled. "I'm sorry, sir. This is the regulation." I shrugged to show that I understood. Damon sighed, took back our certificates, and then coldly left me with the sentence, "I have a meeting later. I'm leaving first." Damon drove away. And I had to take the bus to work. Fortunately, the Civil Affairs Bureau wasn't far from the bus station. I saw the bus stop just a few steps around the corner. The timing was not right. It was exactly the rush hour for work. I looked at the crowded people in front of me and shrank back. As I shrank back, I almost stepped on the tail of a little cat. I apologized to the cat and looked up to see the cat's owner looking at me. He was probably in his 20s. With a pale face and thin limbs. As if he had been seriously ill. He smiled with his eyes curved. This is the first time I've seen someone apologize to a cat. I sat next to him, keeping a bit of distance. This is the first time I've seen someone taking a cat for a walk too. His cat was a black cat with white paws. Like it was wearing fur white gloves. The cat was very attached to him and lay motionless beside his feet. "Your cat is really clingy to you." He smiled. "Animals have souls. Maybe he also knows that I'm going to die soon." I was shocked. "You're still so young." He looked up at the sky. And the light in his eyes flickered on and off. "Young age is useless. It's being alive that matters." The words of comfort were on the tip of my tongue. But when I met the young man's eyes, I couldn't help but swallow them back. One bus after another came to the bus stop, and the number of people at the stop gradually decreased. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, only the two of us were left. The young man still tilted his head to look at the sky, and the broken sunlight danced on his eyebrows. Actually, I'm also ill, I said calmly. I lost my memory. I remember everyone. But I've forgotten one person. After a long while, his calm voice came over. That person must be very important to you. Very important. Just by forgetting him, there is a big hole in my heart. Obviously, hadn't fulfilled what I'm saying. The sun was shining brightly, but I was getting colder and colder, and I couldn't help but curl up. I stubbornly lied. Not important. I hate him. The cat rubbed against my ankle, and I couldn't help but reach out and touch its head. The young man turned his eyes to look at me. His eyes were bright, and there was a shallow dimple on each side of his lips. He stretched out his hand to me. My name is Leo. The Yuan not recovering from a long illness. This is my cat. And his name is Lucky. Later. I finally waited for the bus I wanted. Before getting on the bus, Leo took the initiative to exchange contact information with me. He said that he knew a brain specialist and perhaps could introduce us. On the way, I leaned against the car window and let my thoughts wander. When I got to the door of the art studio, I didn't see my colleague Sonny walking over with a wooden easel, and I bumped into him. Sonny always wore large black-rimmed glasses and always kept his head down to avoid talking to people. I could only hear him softly say, "Thank you, boss," when it was time to get paid. Although Sonny was very gloomy, the paintings he created always had a beam of light shining from the distance. Always bright and full of hope. I got up from the ground and quickly went to check on Sonny. "Are you okay?" He turned his head and didn't look at me. He walked away in a flurry, holding the easel. Lily came over and looked at my hand. "Your own palm is scratched. And you still have time to care about others? After all, I bumped into him first." Lily found some iodine to apply to my wound. "For a painter, these hands are the most precious. You should cherish them more." I smiled sheepishly. Lily put away the iodine and suddenly, as if remembering something, asked me, "Your husband didn't give you a hard time yesterday, did he?" I asked. "Why would he give me a hard time?" Lily rolled her eyes. "God. Who doesn't know that Z has that arrogant and self-centered bad-tempered personality? Yesterday when he came to pick you up, you publicly called him a human trafficker and made him lose face. Didn't he go back and argue with you about getting a divorce?" It seemed that Lily really hated Damon. I nodded. "We're getting a divorce. I proposed it. I just came back from the Civil Affairs Bureau." Lily's eyes widened. After a while, she put her hands together and prayed to the sky piously. "Thank goodness. My birthday wish has come true." "What?" I was confused. Lily gave me a look. "The wish I made on my birthday was that I would lose a lot of weight and get rich. And that Erica would get out of the sea of suffering." "Then your wish is indeed quite accurate." I chimed in and then immediately asked, "I can't figure it out. Why did I marry someone like Damon? I did love Damon once. But definitely not the current Damon. There must have been some changes in the memories that I've forgotten." I looked at Lily expectantly, hoping she could give me an answer. Lily was my desk mate in high school and my classmate in university. Among the large chunks of my missing memories from my student days, Lily was my best friend. Everyone suspected that my amnesia was fake, and Lily was no exception. But she just gave me a few suspicious glances and then picked up the hot tea on the table. "The former Damon would blow this cup of tea until it was lukewarm and feed it to you with his own hands." After saying this, she casually poured the tea into the bucket beside her feet. "But the current Damon wouldn't even look at you when he pours the tea away." At the same time as Lily's words, some fragmented images flashed through my mind. Damon was wrapped in a thick cotton padded jacket, standing at the door downstairs, looking up at me and smiling. His lips, pale from the cold, opened and closed, but there was no sound. It seemed like he was saying, "Erica, let's get married when we graduate." Suddenly, Lily grabbed my shoulders and shook me vigorously to bring me back to my senses. "Erica, don't look back. The current Damon isn't worth your while to look back at. My mind was in a mess. But I nodded seriously. When I got off work in the evening, as soon as I went out, I saw Damon waiting for me at the door. He was leaning against the car, wearing an expensive suit, with his arms crossed in front of his chest, looking at the distance, not knowing what he was thinking. The twilight cast a gloomy shadow all over him, and only the gentle breeze was his salvation. Lily pinched my arm and whispered to me, "Don't look back. Whatever you do." I smiled at her. Lily sighed and left with her boyfriend. Damon seemed to have heard our conversation. He came to his senses and looked at me. His tone calm. "Get in the car." I opened the rear car door and sat in the back. Damon just glanced at me and didn't say anything. Damon and I didn't say a word during the whole journey. But this silence felt familiar to me. As I saw the surrounding scenery becoming more and more unfamiliar, I finally couldn't help but ask, "Damon, where are you taking me?" Damon didn't even look at me and replied with a cold face, "Didn't you say you wanted me to bring you to a French cuisine once a week?" Was this an agreement between him and me in the past? I replied sullenly, "I don't want to eat it anymore. Just take me back to your place, and I'll move out later." Damon simply parked the car on the side of the road, turned around, and stared at me with a look of annoyance. "Erica, how long are you going to keep making a scene? I've remembered all your requests. Isn't that enough?" His words ignited my anger. I took off my bag and threw it at Damon's detestable-looking face. "I'm not making a scene. I've already divorced you." Damon's face turned as dark as ink. He opened the car window and casually threw the bag outside. I was even angrier. "Damon, pick it up for me." Damon actually laughed. "Do you think I'm the dog you keep? Do you think you're some overbearing young lady giving orders?" Slap! I slapped Damon right across the face. The car suddenly fell silent. Damon's eyes widened, and one side of his face slowly turned red and swollen. He probably didn't expect me to hit him either. But this slap made both of us calm down. "Damon, marriage is something between the two of us. It's not a shackle. And it's definitely not what you call my requests. It's the home that you and I should cherish together." My heart, which seemed to have a missing piece, ached dully. Even though I was the one who hit Damon, I felt more pain than he did. Damon half turned around and looked at me, remaining silent. Strange memories came flooding back, engulfing me like a tsunami and making it hard for me to breathe. I suddenly remembered that in high school, Damon sat in front of me. He often turned around to look at me like this. At that time, he raised his eyebrows, and his smile was full of youthful arrogance. He said, "Erica, when you come to watch the basketball game in the afternoon, can you just shout my name?" He said, "Erica, can I call you on the day of the first snow?" He said, "Erica, you look so cute when you frown while doing your homework." He said, "Erica, run boldly. No matter where you are, I will definitely catch up with you." At the age of 18, he always seemed to stand in the light, where the gentle breeze came from, and smiled at me who was trapped in the darkness. He liked to call me Erica. He said it made me sound cuter. I will always be moved by the 18-year-old Damon. But the 28-year-old Erica won't fall in love with the 28-year-old Damon anymore. One side of Damon's face was red and swollen, and the corners of his eyes were also tinged with red. I opened the car door and got out, not wanting to look at him anymore. In the car, Damon's outstretched hand trembled and fell. This was the price he had to pay for the passage of time. I won't look back, and Damon isn't worth my looking back. That night, I moved out of the house I shared with Damon. With a dark face, he asked me, "Are you really in such a hurry?" I carried my suitcase and didn't even bother to look at him. Every second counts. Damon fell silent and silently turned on the light in the entrance hall for me. When I dragged my luggage to the door, he suddenly called my name in a trembling voice. "Erica." I stopped in my tracks. Damon was proud. He lowered his head and asked me in a voice close to pleading, If we went back 10 years, would you?" The only response he got was the door being slammed shut. On Wednesday, at Leo's invitation, I went to the hospital to meet that brain specialist. The specialist's consulting room made me feel an inexplicable sense of familiarity. But since I was indeed there for the first time, I couldn't help but feel confused. The man seemed to understand what I was thinking. He poured a cup of warm water and handed it to me, soothing me with his magnetic voice. "Don't be nervous. I'm Xavier, with a minor in psychology. I'm good at influencing people through the environment." I looked up at him in a daze. The person in front of me had a kind smile. Although his features were unfamiliar, he gave me a sense of familiarity. "Have I seen you somewhere before?" He sat down opposite me, interlaced his fingers, and smiled at me easily. "I have a photographic memory. Erica. We must have never met before." His voice was slow, and there was an inexplicable sense of trust in it. My vision gradually blurred, and in the end, I only vaguely heard him say, "Erica, I hope you won't regret your decision." When I walked out of the consulting room in a daze, Leo was waiting for me at the door. Seeing me come out, he returned my backpack and phoned to me. "Are you okay?" Leaning against the wall, I forced a smile at him. I felt like I had forgotten something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Leo accompanied me to rest in the hospital for a while. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, I came to my senses. Although my head was still throbbing, at least I could walk normally. Leo and I parted at the door. He waved at me and turned to leave. I felt a bit embarrassed. "You came all the way to accompany me. How about I treat you to a meal?" Leo smiled. "No need. You've already treated me." I was taken aback. He added, "In the corner of your forgotten memories. We used to be friends." On the way back, I was still thinking about Leo's words, desperately trying to remember if I had really seen him somewhere before, because I was so engrossed in my thoughts. When I was sketching, I accidentally drew a picture of Leo. Lily spun her chair over and teased me. "Not bad. Drawing a pretty boy based on a model. What's this? A second spring?" I immediately denied it. "Of course not. He's only 20 years old." Lily clicked her tongue twice and continued to look at the drawing of Leo. She couldn't help but say, "Why does this person look so lifeless? He doesn't seem like a living person but more like a still life." That's exactly how Leo made me feel. Like a cat immersed in the darkness, with only its eyes containing the sun. He also longed to escape from the darkness, and hoped that luck would come. On Friday, Leo was hospitalized. I learned about it from that brain specialist. He said that if Leo didn't have the surgery this time, he might not live for more than 3 months. I asked him why Leo didn't have the surgery. He said, "Because the success rate is only 10%. When I went to visit Leo, I bought a bunch of flowers and casually told him some jokes, pretending to be relaxed. Leo smiled back at me, but most of the time, he just looked at the sky outside. He said, "I miss Lucky. It's a pity that the hospital doesn't allow cats." I asked him cautiously, "Do you have any other relatives here?" I wanted to know what their decision was regarding Leo's surgery. Leo turned back and smiled at me, but the smile was full of reluctance. "I don't have any relatives left. In the car accident 3 years ago, I was the only survivor. Now, I'm going to leave too." He was still looking out the window. The sunlight passed through layers of obstacles and embraced him, kissing the corners of his eyes and the ends of his hair. The young man was pale and thin, like an iris flower on the verge of breaking. I felt a pang of pity in my heart. But in front of him, any words I said seemed powerless. I often went to visit Leo. In the first week, he could still go out with me to bask in the sun. In the second week, he was sitting in a wheelchair, spitting out blood and large mouthfuss. In the third week, Leo's hair was shaved off. He lay in bed, smiling weakly at me, and asked me what the thing I most wanted to do in my life was. I thought about it carefully but found that I didn't have anything I particularly wanted to do. Leo didn't care that I didn't have an answer. He gave me a set of keys and an address. "Take care of Lucky for me." That night, when I went to pick up Lucky, it was huddled next to the mobile camera, in a place where Leo could see it as soon as he turned on the camera. "Lucky. Be good." Lucky me owed at me twice. Its voice hoarse, as if it had called out countless times. It couldn't find Leo anymore. So it could only stay in the only place where it could hear Leo's voice and wait for him. The next day, I took Damon out of my blacklist. Our divorce cooling off period had ended, and we could officially go through the divorce procedures. I made an appointment for 9 o'clock. Damon arrived a bit late. His clothes were no longer so neatly arranged, and he looked a bit downcast. When he saw me, his eyes lit up a little, and then they dimmed again. When I saw him walking towards me, I turned around and wanted to leave, but Damon grabbed my arm. I couldn't break free and frowned at him. Damon's eyelashes trembled, and he asked me in a hoarse voice, "Erica, don't you want me anymore?" My back tensed up instantly, and my chest felt as if it had been stabbed. The pain went deep into my bones. I really did love Damon once. "No, I don't," I replied in a suppressed voice. "Damon, I don't want you anymore." Along with these words, the past 10 years between him and me came flooding back. It was him wearing a school uniform, sitting in the sunlight, casually bouncing a basketball and smiling at me, saying, "Erica, why are you so late? If you don't come, who am I going to show off to?" It was him resting his chin in his hand, looking at the rows of teachers leading work downstairs, tilting his head and smiling at me, saying, "Erica, do you want to go and have that spicy hot pot after school?" It was him leaning against the wall when he had a cold, looking aggrieved and saying to me, "Erica, I think I'm almost done for. Remember, there's a 1 yuan coin stuck in inserted in page 27 of my mathematics book for compulsory course 2. That's all my belongings. Why are you hitting me?" It was him blushing and kneeling down on one knee in the middle of a sea of flowers. "Erica, from now on, you're all my belongings." It was the clock showing that he came home later and later after we got married. And it was the message on his phone screen that lit up when he hugged me and imagined our future. "I'm not feeling well. Can you come and stay with me?" It was the growing look of annoyance in his eyes, and the fewer and fewer words he said to me. It was the clumsy excuse he made on my birthday to accompany someone else. The company's cat was sick and needed someone to take care of it. These were our 10 years. The 10 years during which my young man, as gentle as jade, gradually drifted away from me. Suddenly, 2 lines of tears rolled down my face. "Damon, I don't want you anymore." After getting the marriage certificate, I got rid of Damon, who still wanted to pester me. On the way to visit Leo, I also bought a bouquet of flowers. At the entrance of the hospital elevator, I met Xavier, that brain specialist. When he saw me, he raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Erica, do you remember me this time?" I remembered him. Half a year ago, when I confirmed that Damon had changed his heart. I was once depressed and suffered from anorexia. Finally, having fulfilled me, I fainted on the roadside and was sent to the hospital by a kind-hearted young man. When I woke up, the young man was sitting by the window, quietly basking in the sun. He smiled at me and reached out his hand to me. "Hello. My name is Leo. The Yuan not recovering from a long illness. I also have a cat. And his name is Lucky." At that time, he was just thin and looked malnourished, but his eyes were always bright, as if there was a sun hidden in them. Due to moderate depression and severe anorexia, I was forced to stay in the hospital for observation. Coincidentally, Damon was on a business trip at that time, busy with various social engagements, and he was completely unaware of my hospitalization. During the first week, I curled up in the corner, neither eating nor drinking, and lived by hanging intravenous drips all day. I often cried late at night. Sometimes, after taking medicine and waking up from sleep, I would also look at the corner and burst into tears for no apparent reason. Leo often came to see me, bringing the newly bloomed flowers by the roadside, pulling open the curtains to dispel the gloom in the room. During the second week, he introduced his attending doctor to me. That person was Xavier. He minored in psychology and also obtained a master's degree. He was most proficient in influencing a person's psychology to the language environment. In front of him, I would always become a bit calmer. After nearly half a month of treatment, he interlaced his fingers and smiled kindly. "I know the reason why Erica is so painful. The partner who supported each other in their youth finally gave his heart to someone else. What Erica can't let go of is no longer that person, but the young man in the past. Then why not let go of the past memories and re-examine the people around you now to see if they are still worthy of Erica's turning back? What do you think? My head was in a daze, and I couldn't even hear clearly what he said, but I knew that perhaps this was my only way out. In the next half year, Xavier carried out a series of psychological hints on me, and also used some medications, making me really forget Damon for a while. He said, when Erica is determined to let go, all these memories will be restored. So, one day when I woke up, I lost my memory. I remembered everyone, but I forgot him alone. I got into the elevator and returned a smile to Xavier. Thank you. The elevator door slowly closed, and there were only the two of us in the narrow space. Xavier tilted his head to look at me. The formulaic smile faded, and a fanatical light appeared in his eyes. It's me who should say thank you. Erica is very good experimental material. I knew that Xavier was using me as an experiment, but I still thanked him very much. I walked out of the haze and finally let go of the past. All thanks to him. But all this still can't change the fact that he is an academic madman who uses living people as materials for his experiments. I didn't want to get entangled with Xavier too much, so I didn't reply to him anymore. After Xavier asked me a few more questions and saw that I was not interested, he also felt bored and didn't speak again. Until the elevator door opened and I was about to get out of the elevator. Erica. I turned back to look at Xavier standing in the shadow. There was that formulaic and kind smile on his face again. Leo has agreed to the surgery. I was overjoyed immediately. After nodding and thanking him, I rushed to Leo's ward right away. When I went in, Leo was curled up on the chair by the window. The sunlight spread inch by inch on him, warming his whole body. I took out the withered flowers from the vase and replaced them with the sunflowers I brought today. I took a sprayer and sprayed some water. Looking at the dripping petals, I couldn't help but laugh. You really are like a sunflower. You both like basking in the sun. Leo half raised his eyes, his breath weak. I've agreed to the surgery. If I'm lucky enough to survive, help me paint a sunrise in Lhasa. When I was depressed, Leo had mentioned this matter, but I forgot about it later, and it was left unresolved. I felt a bit guilty. When you get better, I'll take you to Lhasa and we'll see the sunrise in person. He closed his eyes and didn't reply anymore, as if he was extremely tired. Leo's surgery was scheduled for the next afternoon. Before he entered the operating room, he gave me a small hug. His last words were, Erica, remember me. My eyes were a bit red. I patted his back to comfort him. You're still young. You'll definitely be lucky. He smiled at me, closed his eyes, and didn't speak again. The surgery lasted for 8 hours. I waited outside the operating room until the evening before I went to feed Lucky. Leo has Lucky, and he will definitely be okay. Lucky also seemed to know about Leo's situation. No matter what, he refused to eat anything and lay in front of the camera without moving. At 9 o'clock, I was going to continue waiting for Leo, but Lucky suddenly started howling. This was the first time I saw a cat shouting hoarsely. He kept rubbing his head against the camera, but the cold machine couldn't soothe him forever. My heart trembled violently. 10 minutes later, I received a message from Xavier. Sorry. I couldn't help crying in the car. Memories of Leo sitting in the sun and accompanying me when I was depressed emerged. I bit the back of my hand and tried my best to suppress my sobs. He said, I have no family and no friends. If I'm gone, no one will remember me. Erica, you must remember me. I'm sorry I forgot you. I'm sorry. Leo. I stumbled towards the hospital. In a trance, I saw Leo again. He was standing in the light and reaching out his hand to me. Hello. My name is Leo. The you in not recovering from a long illness. Leo didn't get to be Lucky, and Lucky lost Leo. Leo had no relatives left, and I helped him take care of his funeral arrangements. Leo had very few things. The most precious thing was a cat named Lucky. After getting through the first few nights, I looked at Lucky basking in the sun and made a decision. I resigned from my job. When Lily heard about this, she looked at me in disbelief. Erica. Without love, we can still focus on our careers. Why are you giving up your career too? I smiled at her. I want to fulfill a promise. I was going to take a car to Tibet to paint the sunrise for Leo, but actually, I'm not good at landscape painting. I'm better at painting portraits. So before I left, I specially visited Sunny. I was willing to take out all my savings and hire him to accompany me to Tibet to paint a sunrise. Lily didn't understand my actions at all. She thought that I was willing to give up everything I had now just to fulfill an unexplainable promise. Damon didn't understand either. He had bought the art studio where I worked behind my back before. When he heard that I had resigned, he immediately drove over to ask me. I had been suspecting why I had been absent from work for no reason some time ago, and my monthly salary had doubled compared to before. It turned out that Damon had taken over this art studio. Damon frowned and spoke quickly. If it's because of me, you don't have to resign at all. I can transfer this art studio to you immediately. He tried to persuade me. Erica, don't be impulsive. I looked at him calmly, looking at the youthful years that had passed through his hair. I asked him, Damon, why did you buy this art studio? Damon was in the information software industry. How could an art studio that was not well known and had unimpressive profits suddenly catch his eye? Damon slowly lowered his head, his voice weak. I wanted to compensate you as much as possible. He seemed to know that he had said the wrong thing and immediately changed his words. Of course. I know that I can't make up for the harm I caused you before at all, but… Stop. I interrupted him. I don't want to hear your self-pitying confession. Don't flatter yourself. I didn't resign because of you. Damon was taken aback. Then why? I looked up at the sky. The dark clouds that had gathered for several days finally dispersed. The sunlight broke through the clouds and shone on the earth. Geese sang loudly and flew past, leaving behind streaks in the torn sky. My mood suddenly improved. I don't want to stay in the past anymore. I want to see the future. A future without you. After saying these words, Sunny also packed his things and came out. I turned around and waved at him. Sunny, can you drive? Sunny kept his head down and replied with a single word in a low voice. Yes. I was very happy. I pulled Sunny and got into the car that I had bought before, but never had the chance to drive out. Damon just stood there, watching me gradually move away until I finally disappeared from his sight. Lily crossed her arms in front of her chest, clicked her tongue twice, and said sarcastically, the person who was addicted to the past has moved towards the future, while the person who was the first to let go of the past actually started to miss the past again. How ironic. When Damon faced Lily, he didn't have such a good temper. His face turned cold in an instant, and he questioned Lily. Are you laughing at me? Wow. What a fierce look. Lily giggled twice and threw her resignation letter in Damon's face. Sister has resigned. Sister isn't afraid of you anymore. Sister just wishes you a lonely old age and that you'll never meet Erica again. After saying that, she walked away proudly. Damon stood there. After a long while, he let out a long sigh. Of course. He would never meet Erica again. Erica didn't love him anymore. All of this was his own doing. I no longer cared about what happened to Damon. Sunny and I drove all the way to Tibet. Lucky wasn't afraid of riding in the car. Instead, like a curious child, he would lean against the car window every day to look at the scenery passing by. Your cat is really cute. Sunny and I got a lot closer. He became able to respond to my jokes and sometimes even took the initiative to share some interesting things with me. He had always had mild autism, and the magnificent scenery of the mountains and rivers along the way gradually healed him. Lucky is my friend's cat. He was his treasure. Sunny knew a bit about Leo from me. And he also felt sorry for that young man who liked basking in the sun. When he heard me say this, he immediately changed the topic, afraid of making me sad again. On the day Sunny and I entered Tibet, both of us couldn't help getting out of the car and shouting. Sunny reacted even more strongly than me. He immediately rummaged through the trunk to take out the easel, and then started painting the mountains in the distance. I took a few photos with the camera. Feeling bored, I also opened the easel. After looking around, I started to paint Leo. I spent half a month painting this picture. I kept revising and changing it. I even tore it up and started over 7 times. But no matter how I painted, I wasn't satisfied. The Leo in my memory was gentle, a young man leaning against the sunlight. I painted the scene when he first met me at the station after I lost my memory, reaching out his hand and smiling kindly at me. I painted the smile on his face when he sent me to the hospital when I had depression and when I woke up. I also painted the smile on his face when he was terminally ill and was curled up on the chair, closing his eyes and basking in the sun. But I wasn't satisfied. I always felt that something was missing. Sonny praised the paintings I had torn up. He said that I was just too strict with myself. It was just a small flaw, and it could be tolerated a bit. I said to him firmly, "We can't make do with Leo's situation. In this world, I'm the only one who remembers him. I absolutely can't just settle for anything." Sonny didn't understand. But he didn't try to persuade me anymore. Half a month later, Sonny and I took our easels and waited for the sunrise in front of the Potala Palace in the early morning. The night in Tibet was cold. Sonny specially brought an extra coat for me and put it on me. He said to me, "You can take a nap for a while. When the sun rises, I'll call you." I shook my head and thanked him for his kindness. The time waiting for the sunrise was too boring. Even Sonny couldn't stand the boredom and took the initiative to tell me a joke. Do you know why Jesus never read Buddhist scriptures in his life? Because he couldn't speak Chinese. His joke was even more boring. But the way Sonny looked at me expectantly was kind of funny. After getting along for a long time, I found that Sonny was like a child. He liked childish toys, sweet foods, and telling some boring jokes. I became closer and closer to him. He started calling me Erica. And I still called him Sonny. But I took care of him more and more like I would take care of a younger brother. More and more people were waiting for the sunrise. But the sun, like a shy little girl, still refused to show up. Sonny yawned twice, and the pen in his hand fell to the ground. The sun hadn't risen yet, and the visibility was still very low. I followed the sound to look for the pen that had rolled somewhere. There were a lot of people gathered on the square. I was looking down between my feet. Sonny only liked to use the pen he was used to. If he lost that pen, he would probably be very sad. The moment I just found the pen, I heard cries of surprise from above my head. Holding the pen, I stood up and couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. The red sun, like a girl wearing a golden gauze dress, leapt out from the layers of green mountains and cast the first ray of blessed light on the world. It shone in harmony with the golden roof of the Potala Palace, full of peace and holiness. Among the crowd, some people knelt on the ground chanting scriptures. Some people put their hands together in prayer. And some people picked up their pens and faced the rising sun with utter sincerity. I finally knew what was missing in the painting of Leo. Leo was a blessing. I picked up the pen and started to paint. Recently, I had painted Leo so many times that I could quickly draw his eyebrows and eyes. According to the red sun, I painted a crimson and gold light beside him. What I painted was the last time I saw him. He half raised his hand in a hugging gesture, with a gentle smile and eyes full of regret. On his right hand, I also painted an iris flower in full bloom. When Sonny finished painting the sunrise, he took a look at my painting. "Is he Leo? He's really different." I was a bit surprised and asked, "What's different?" Sonny frowned and examined my painting for a long time. Finally, he said hesitantly, "Well, before, I just felt that he was very gentle. Now, his gentleness has a kind of warmth, like the feeling of basking in the sun." I nodded. Sonny showed me his painting of the sunrise. It was almost exactly the same as the scene just now, and it even had a better artistic conception. With this painting, he might be able to become a famous master overnight. Sonny didn't seem to care. He generously wanted to give the painting to me. "I promised you that I would paint the sunrise for you." In the end, I still didn't take that painting. I also left healing to Sonny. With his permission, I took a photo of his painting and posted it online. Sonny became popular overnight. Some of his previous paintings were also discovered, and some people even said they wanted to hold an art exhibition for him, with that painting of the sunrise to be placed in the center. Sonny came to ask for my opinion. I replied to him. If possible, please also put healing in your art exhibition. I hope more people can remember him. Remember that there was once a very gentle young man named Leo, with the Chinese character Yu meaning healing. He also had a cat named Lucky. Sunny's art exhibition was a great success. When we came back, Lily had already moved away. She went to the capital to make a name for herself. When I talked to her about her long-distance relationship now, Lily replied very freely. She said, "Erica, if he really loves me, even if we're thousands of miles apart, and even if there's only the sound of his voice on the phone, it can't stop his yearning for me. If he doesn't love me, Erica, this isn't a long-distance relationship. This is finding a wild father from another place for myself, just looking for trouble." Lily had always been sharp-tongued. I couldn't help but laugh and fall onto the bed. I also told her about Sunny. Now, Sunny's paintings were in high demand. The highest-priced painting of the sunrise had reached 70 million yuan. And it was said that many people had offered a high price for my painting healing, as well. At my instruction, Sunny rejected all the offers for me. He also specially put up a small sign next to that painting, writing Leo's name and the words he often said. Lucky was getting fatter and fatter. He often nestled in the soft cat bed and slept. He would only come out to bask in the sun when there was sunlight. When I called him for food, he would run very fast, as if he had wings. I still engaged in painting. My days were plain but also happy. Time was as gentle as water, gradually healing the wounds. And next time I saw Damon was at Sunny's celebration banquet. By then, Sunny had already become a very famous painter. He was invited to attend the celebration banquet. He couldn't decline the invitation. And he was afraid of crowded occasions. So he came to ask me to go with him. After more than a year, Damon had changed a lot. He had become much more stable and mature. He was wearing a dark suit, and his carefully groomed hair set off his delicate features. No matter where he stood, he was the focus of the crowd. I just took a glance at him and then turned my head to continue observing the other people in the venue. In the crowd, I saw Xavier. He was wearing a white suit and his hair wasn't combed, which made him look free and easy. He raised his glass to me. And I did the same. "I saw your painting." Xavier raised the corners of his lips. "If he were still alive, he would definitely like it very much." I clinked glasses with him and replied, "If it were him, he would definitely praise my painting skills straightforwardly and then celebrate with me." Xavier smiled but didn't say anything. I found Sunny in the center of the venue, holding a glass trembling lie. He looked around and smiled brightly at me when he saw me. I returned a smile to him. Xavier suddenly clinked glasses with me again. I looked up at him. He half turned his face and smiled at me. "Erica, I wonder if you're interested later." "I'm not interested." I interrupted him. "Xavier, I'm not interested in you. An academic madman who didn't care about human lives for the sake of experiments." I had no interest in him at all. The smile in Xavier's eyes deepened. He put down his glass and gently touched the watch on his wrist. Just when I suspected that he was going to impose some psychological suggestion on me again, he suddenly laughed and said, "Erica, it seems you have other guests. So I won't bother you anymore." With that, he turned and left. "Hey, isn't this Erica?" a shrill voice suddenly interrupted. I turned to look at the person who came and couldn't help but frown. I had seen her from a distance once. She was the woman Damon had fallen for. Luna. In my opinion, she was just a base with an appearance but no brains. She was Damon's secretary. I had a very bad impression of her during the interview. She didn't keep track of time, was careless, and was forgetful. I couldn't even count all her shortcomings on one hand. But she also had an advantage that I had to admit. She was always positive. Even if the road ahead was full of uncertainties, she had the courage to charge forward alone. Maybe that was what Damon liked about her. I wasn't in the mood to chat with my former rival at my younger brother's celebration banquet. I didn't even pay attention to her provocative words. I just gave her a light glance and quickly looked away, for fear of dirtying my eyes. Luna felt embarrassed but still wanted to say something. At this moment, Damon came over and separated me from her. He raised his glass and smiled at me. How have you been recently? I replied calmly. Stay away. Thank you. His expression didn't change. He pushed Luna aside and changed the topic to continue talking to me. I saw that painting. It's really good. You've been good at painting portraits since high school. This time, you really amazed me. Without the involvement of love, I saw Damon like a buzzing fly. I wished I could slap him and make him stay away from me. But I couldn't do that. I could only smile at him sarcastically. Oh, Mr. Z, and out a low sigh. Have you made your mistress your official partner? Damon's face immediately darkened. Luna persistently asked who the mistress was. I passed by Damon and replied to her in a louder voice. When Mr. Z and I were husband and wife. You were Mr. Z's girlfriend. If you're not the mistress, could you be the fourth party? I felt my face heat up when I heard the people around pointing at Luna. Damon was no exception. He sternly told Luna to leave and explained to everyone that they were just in a superior-subordinate relationship. I stood by and watched the scene, finding it funny. I could see clearly that he was protecting Luna. Damon, what do you like about her? Damon lowered his voice. I'm not protecting her. I'm protecting you. Protect me? I laughed bitterly. I desperately controlled my hand to barely keep myself from splashing the wine on his face. Was he dreaming? What nonsense was he talking? He was at a loss for words. And then he questioned me angrily. Erica, you're faking your amnesia. Aren't you? Stop being unreasonable. I don't have that much time to play with you. No. His tone was weak. And after struggling for a long time, he didn't continue. But I was curious about the first half of his sentence. He said he knew I would definitely come. This celebration banquet indeed had his involvement. I couldn't stand his coy attitude and asked, Damon, do you want to go back to the past with me? He immediately looked up, his eyes shining with hope, and looked at me expectantly. I smiled and then splashed the wine on his face. First, he was involved in a mistress scandal. And then he was splashed with wine by his ex-wife. No matter what, Damon's reputation would definitely drop to the lowest level in the future. Some of his orders might also be lost because of this. But how much Damon lost had nothing to do with me. I replied coldly. What you miss isn't me. It's the you who used to shine in my eyes. I put the glass on the nearby table and picked up a tissue to wipe my fingers. Stop disgusting me, Damon. I turned to leave, and Sunny immediately followed. When we passed by Damon, he also splashed the wine on Damon's face. He also left a sentence. Since you, Mr. Z, and Mr. E, have many women, you'd better not expect to have a precious pearl. Damon didn't say anything more. He stood in the venue, like a dog that had been drenched in the rain. Sunny drove me for a ride. I raised my arms to embrace the night and embrace a new self. The night was never the source of pain. The people who refused to see themselves clearly were. The end.